In less than 50 years, one man's small dream built the biggest sporting empire the world has ever seen. But this is not just a story of success. This is the story of a man who lied, bluffed, stood on the edge of bankruptcy, and still refused to quit. Today, we go back to the very beginning to understand how a company like Nike was born and what the real secret behind that success truly was. A runner's idea. The year was 1962. Phil Knight had just completed his MBA from Stanford Graduate School of Business. A business degree was in his hands, but the road ahead was anything but clear. But Phil had something that most graduates don't, an idea. And not just an idea, a question that simply refused to leave his mind. Phil had been a distance runner at the University of Oregon. Running on that track, he had felt everything a runner feels. Which shoe connects the foot to the ground the right way? Which one destroys your feet after a race? Which one feels light and which one feels like dead weight? In one of his business classes at Stanford, he was given an assignment: come up with a new business model. Most students wrote about restaurants and laundry shops. Phil wrote something different. He had observed how Japanese cameras had quietly and effectively taken over the American market from German cameras. German cameras were expensive, premium, but Japanese cameras were affordable, reliable, and offered better value. And slowly, without any great noise, the German brands had fallen behind. A question flashed through Phil's mind. Could Japanese shoes challenge Puma and Adidas in America the same way? He wrote that paper. It was a class assignment, but for Phil, it was not just homework. It was the blueprint of his life. And that one simple question eventually became the foundation of a $100 billion company. That trip to Japan. After graduation, Phil became completely obsessed with this idea. The problem was that he had never properly seen a Japanese running shoe. The only pairs in America were the ones soldiers had brought back like souvenirs after being stationed in Japan. But that lack of exposure only made Phil more excited. It meant this market had not been seriously explored by anyone yet, and where a field is empty, that is exactly where the opportunity lives. Phil gathered every dollar he had, some savings from his time serving in the army, earnings from part-time jobs, and in November 1962, he set off for Japan, like a tourist. No appointments, no contacts, no experience of Japan whatsoever, just one curiosity and one question. Wandering through the city of Kobe, his eyes landed on a shoe store. It was an Onitsuka Tiger store. Phil walked inside. He picked up a pair, studied the sole, examined the stitching, felt the weight, and something inside him said, "This is it." This was far better than anything American running brands were making at the time. Lighter, better grip, and the price? Half of what Adidas charged. He made his decision right there. I am taking these to America. And now comes the part that exists in every entrepreneur's story. That moment when you have to bluff. Phil arranged a meeting with Onitsuka's founder, Kihachiro Onitsuka. He introduced himself as an American shoe distributor. Right before the meeting, he came up with a company name, Blue Ribbon Sports. No registered company, no office, no team, just a name, grabbed straight out of thin air. But inside that meeting room, Phil's confidence was so genuine, his passion so real, that Onitsuka's founder felt this man knows exactly what he is doing. And by the end of that meeting, Phil walked out holding the exclusive distribution rights for Tiger shoes across the western United States, on nothing but pure confidence, on nothing but a runner's obsession, a business that started from a car boot. Coming back from Japan, Phil knew now he had to wait. Customs clearance, shipping, paperwork, all of it together took nearly 11 months. During that time, Phil worked as an accountant in Portland. He also taught part-time at Portland State University. He kept saving money and kept waiting for the day that first shipment would arrive. Finally, in 1963, that day came. The first shipment of Tiger shoes contained just 12 pairs. Not 12,000, just 12. Phil did not rent a warehouse. He did not open a shop. He put those 12 pairs in the boot of his car and hit the road. He drove to every running track across Oregon and California that he could reach. Races would finish. Athletes would walk out exhausted, and Phil would approach them, pop open the boot and say, "These are Japanese shoes. Try them. Just put them on once. No fancy pitch, no advertisement, just the product, and an honest recommendation from a fellow runner." And the shoes sold. But Phil knew this strategy could not scale. You cannot build an empire from a car boot. So he did what every smart person does. He went to the one person who understood this world even better than he did. That person was Bill Bowerman, Phil's former coach at the University of Oregon, a man whose athletes had reached the Olympics, one of the most respected track coaches in all of America. Phil sent Bowerman a few pairs of Tiger shoes, hoping he might buy a few pairs and offer some support. Bowerman looked at the shoes, picked them up, turned them over, studied the sole carefully, and then he called Phil. "I don't just want to be a buyer, I want to be a partner." In January 1964, Bill and Phil officially incorporated Blue Ribbon Sports. Both invested $500 each, placed their first real order, 300 pairs at $3.33 a pair. The shipment arrived in April. By July, every single pair was sold. In their first year, BRS sold $8,000 worth of shoes. By 1965, revenue had climbed to $20,000. And soon after, their very own first store opened in Santa Monica. The story that had started from a car boot now had its own address. The innovation guy, Bill Bowerman. Phil was managing the business, accounts, orders, shipments, customers, but the real magic was coming from Bill. Bowerman was not an ordinary coach. He was an obsessed tinkerer. He believed that the right shoe could completely transform an athlete's performance, and he is the man credited with bringing jogging culture to America. In 1966, he wrote a book about jogging. That book sold over 1 million copies, and naturally, BRS became the first company to market Tiger shoes specifically for jogging. But Bowerman's real work was happening behind the scenes. With every new shipment, he would cut open several Tiger shoes, literally slicing the sole away from the upper with a knife, just to see what was inside, how it was built. Then he would write his notes. "More cushioning needed here. This material is too heavy. The grip pattern doesn't work on Oregon's wet tracks." Those notes would travel to Japan. Onitsuka's team would make changes. The next shipment would arrive a little better. Bowerman was practically designing Onitsuka's shoes for them without ever officially being their employee. And from that same obsessive process came the shoe that changed everything, the Cortez. Bowerman had sketched this design on a napkin during a flight. The shoe came to market in 1967, and in the year of the 1968 Mexico City Olympics, the Cortez became America's best-selling running shoe. That year, BRS sold $300,000 worth of shoes. That small car boot had now become a serious business. When the dream got bigger, so did the problems. The Cortez was so successful that demand ran far ahead of supply. Every new shipment sold out faster than the one before. But Onitsuka's pace never changed, measured and slow. The real problem was this: Onitsuka's priority was absolutely clear. Japan's demand first. Whatever was left, that went to America. Phil and Bill understood. As long as manufacturing was in someone else's hands, growth would depend on someone else's mood. They were dependent on someone else's factory, someone else's production schedule, someone else's priorities. This situation had to change. Then came the realization that changed everything. The Cortez design belonged to Bowerman. He had sketched it on that napkin. That idea was his, which meant the moment their contract with Onitsuka expired, they could manufacture their own shoes, without Onitsuka, under their own name, on their own terms. The contract end date was 1972, 1 year before the Munich Olympics. Perfect timing, the birth of Nike. In 1971, Phil began working on the branding for his new company. For the name, his first employee suggested Nike, named after the Greek goddess of victory, short, sharp, and carrying the story of winning deep within it. For the logo, Phil walked over to Portland State University. There, he found a graphic design student, Carolyn Davidson. Phil gave her a brief, "Create something that shows speed and motion." 3 days later, Carolyn slid across a design, a single, simple, curved line. Phil was not blown away at first, but time was short and he needed an identity. He paid her $35 and took the swoosh. Today, that same swoosh is one of the most recognized logos in the entire world. And later, Phil gave Carolyn a parcel of Nike stock as well, in recognition of what that $35 sketch had become. This time, Phil did not lock himself into any exclusive deal. He built an entire network of subcontractors across Japan. Production came under his control. Growth came under his control. Blue Ribbon Sports officially died. Nike officially came alive. From there, only forward. From 1971 onwards, Nike's sales graph pointed in only one direction, up. By 1979, Nike had become America's biggest running shoe brand. In 1980, Nike went public with an IPO on the stock market. Phil Knight, who had once sold shoes from a car boot, became a multi-millionaire overnight. But the real explosion was still to come. 1984, a new rookie arrived in the NBA, Michael Jordan. Nike offered him a deal no athlete had ever received before. Not just a sponsorship, an entirely separate shoe line, built solely in his name, Air Jordan. Nike hoped that maybe in 3 or 4 years, sales might reach $3 million. In the very first year, Air Jordan generated $126 million. The NBA banned the shoe for violating league uniform rules. Nike paid every single fine, and And with every fine, the publicity only grew louder. The ban made the shoe cooler. The controversy made the brand bigger. In 1989 came the campaign that changed everything. Just do it. This was not just a tagline, it was an attitude. It was the mindset of an entire generation. It was not just shoes being sold anymore, it was a spirit. In 1996, Nike signed Tiger Woods. The world of golf became Nike's. In 2003, LeBron James. The future of basketball was bound to Nike. Every time a new legend, every time Nike's value climbed even higher. Nike in 2026. Where does it stand today? Today, Nike is the world's biggest sportswear company. Operations in over 140 countries. More than 83,000 employees. Over $4 billion spent every single year on research and innovation alone. But the journey has not always been smooth. After 2020, Nike ran into challenges it had never faced before. Global supply chains collapsed. Factories shut down. Containers sat idle at ports for months. Geopolitical tensions with China grew deeper. And China is both Nike's second-largest market and a key manufacturing hub. In its aggressive push toward direct-to-consumer sales, Nike began sidelining wholesale partners, which damaged long-standing relationships with retailers. Sales slowed, stock fell, investors grew nervous. In 2024, CEO John Donahoe stepped down. The board called back a veteran who knew Nike from the inside, Elliott Hill, a man who had first walked through Nike's doors as an intern in 1992. 32 years in Nike's veins. Someone who understood Nike's soul from the inside out. The message was clear: go back to who we were. In 2025, the strategy shifted. Relationships with wholesale retailers were rebuilt from the ground up. Classic silhouettes like the Air Max and Air Force One were relaunched with fresh designs and new collaborations. A stronger focus on sustainability, carbon reduction targets under the Move to Zero initiative, investment in AI-driven design to catch trends before they happen. In 2026, Nike stands at the start of a new chapter. The challenges are real. Adidas, New Balance, On Running, Anta, all growing fast, all pushing hard. Every competitor is trying to take some piece of Nike's market, but Nike holds something that no competitor can build overnight: an emotional legacy, a brand that lives in people's memories, in their childhoods, in the stories of their own victories. For hundreds of millions of people around the world, Nike is not just a shoe company, it is a feeling. The feeling of winning, of trying, of refusing to give up. This was the story of Nike, of Phil Knight, that quiet runner who walked out of a Stanford classroom and found his way to a small shoe shop in Kobe, of Bill Bowerman, that obsessed coach who kept cutting open shoes, searching for something better inside, of Carolyn Davidson, that student who drew the world's most recognized logo for $35. One runner's idea, one coach's innovation, one $35 logo. And today, a legacy that lives on every track, every court, every street corner in the world, where someone ties their laces, takes a breath, and tells themselves, just do it. Thank you for watching. Rate this story out of 10 in the comments and tell me what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The next video is going to be even more interesting.